With the US opening a trade war that has been underpinned by uncertain policy, how have geopolitical partnerships shifted in Asia?
What's actually really interesting is with the tariffs, the alliance and formally the alliances and the other kinds of relationships have not changed. They've not technically changed. There's been no abrogation of treaties, there's been no amendment of treaties. But what has happened is that there's a lot more apprehension about US commitment. There's a lot less clarity over the direction in which the US is heading, especially in terms of cooperation. People might bring up the issue of Ukraine, but Ukraine is not a US treaty ally.
In this instance, then what case can Taipei benefit from this new trade environment?
So what's interesting is because Taiwan had actually benefited from the last sort of shock to trade during the first Trump administration, where economic ties with the PRC between the US and the PRC were tightened. So there was this acceleration of a China plus one strategy. Many Taiwanese firms relocated back to Taiwan, or Taiwanese firms moved from the PRC elsewhere. And because Taiwan was seen as part of that safer supply chain, it gained. I guess that is something that Taiwan can still bank on, although the certainty of that approach certainly is called into question by the Trump administration's more perhaps cavalier attitude towards longstanding relationships. That having been said, Taiwan is a major producer of semiconductors. It is important for U.S. security interests. U.S. have not stepped away from them. In fact, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, during his visit, has said that the U.S. continues to be interested in deterrence in East Asia. So those are things that Taiwan can work on. Taiwan has shown itself to be a good partner in the past. It can potentially do that, continue to do that.
Next week, Xi Jinping will visit Malaysia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, three nations which had very high US tariffs applied on them before the pause. So, what implications could this visit bring about?
I think these states were a beneficiaries of the China plus one strategies, and hence their high surplus, and probably with the United States, hence the tariffs. At the same time, these three Southeast Asian states are ones that have been trying to cultivate closer relations with the PRC at any rate. So I suppose looking at the trade war with the United States, General Secretary Xi Jinping probably thinks that he can perhaps find inroads for cooperation with these two states. Now, things are also complicated, and probably Xi will have to work through them. One, because these three states, the way that their economies work is that they will sometimes produce components that get shipped to China for final assembly, or vice versa. But one of the major final markets is the United States. If the U.S. is closed off to the PRC, we could see a diversion of trade through these countries toward the U.S., and the question will be whether Washington wants to then shut off those channels as well. At the same time, these three countries, they being in close economic having close economic ties with the PRC means to say that they also take quite a lot of PRC exports, and there have been concerns about overcapacity in the past. This pressure is likely to increase as the U.S. market is essentially shut off to PRC goods, and that the diversion of trade to these countries from the PRC could put a lot of pressure on these economies, especially small and medium-sized enterprises.